to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Good morning, San Diego marketers. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association and powered by WS Radio. So we've got to start this morning on a sad note. We are devastated to announce the passing of Hannah Martine, former president of the AMA San Diego chapter. Our thoughts go out to her and her family. She was a huge part in helping us make the AMA here in San Diego what it is. She tragically passed away after a battle with breast cancer, and our thoughts go out to everyone she impacted throughout her time. And we'll be posting a little memorial for her on the AMA site, and we thank everyone for their contributions. Anyway, next we want to have an announcement on the next AMA event. We're talking about marketing technology today, tomorrow, and over the next decade, which takes place on March 10th at Mind Groove, which is at 627 8th Street here in San Diego. And yeah, go ahead and grab your tickets. They are $35 for AMA members, and for guests and future members, they are $45. So our topic of today, we are picking up where we left off a few months back on digital and what it looks like in the future. We had our part 1 episode back in November, and we're picking up our part 2 episode today. And in the studio, I've got Sam Wheeler. We're just going to chat digital. And in the last segment, we talked about Domain Authority 2.0 and quite a bit about voice search. And here we want to cover topics of link building, visual search, and video. Just to dive right into it, we're going to kick it off with link building. We want to talk a little bit about the new update from Google on nofollow links. Sam, if you want to talk a little bit about it and everything you see on the SEO front.
Yeah. Good morning. The biggest thing I think is that Google is basically telling everybody we know what a good link is, right? They know what a good link is. They know what a bad link is. And that's kind of what they've been saying with the new nofollow attribute tag, where they're basically just saying, look, it's going to be a hint and not like a directive, right? So I think the actual technical aspect of it is that before they wouldn't crawl and index it, but now they will be able to, starting like this weekend or something like that. I
think it started on the 1st, technically.
Oh, on the 1st? Okay. So, the big, they said, I think Gary Iles said that he thinks sites wouldn't see major impacts really. But, Google wants to understand how people are linking in greater depth and understand, like, okay, could a link actually be adding value when it's a nofollow, when there is a nofollow attribute in there. So, I think it's both an attempt of Google to index the web a little bit more strictly, but also, they're to get rid of people, trying to use nefarious linking activities as well.
Do you think it has anything to do with I don't know if you saw, there was an article on Search Engine Journal about some sites getting hit for their outbound links. I think that happened just last week, right before the update went into effect. Do you think this had anything to do with it?
I don't think so. I think it was probably part of part of the algorithm update that they were making. I don't think they did this and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later we're like, oh, we need to change our link metrics. You know what I mean? So. But with outbound, the way I understand about the outbound, it wasn't like a penalty. They were just saying like your outbound authority would be affected, which is basically not dropping them in ranking, just basically like those links aren't going to count is what they were saying. Because if you think about it, like in theory, having a guest contributor, like that's not a bad thing, right? You want experts coming in and writing content for your site. You just, if they think that you're doing it for the purpose of gaming the algorithm, then that's what they're saying. Hey, we think this is nefarious. We're not going to count it. Basically, we're not going to count the link. And so, I think this is bad for people that are writing really good content and connecting with good publications and writing really good stuff. And it's, because people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to outbound link anymore. And really, you still can, right? They didn't say don't do that. They said just don't do it crappily, basically, right? And then, sites that are just guest posting farms, they're going to close down pretty quickly here once they, people stop reaching out to them, or some people pay them even to write on their site, which is crazy that people still do that, in my opinion. But it's definitely something that we've been talking about in my company. We've been talking about forever. So I actually, when I saw that article, I was really happy because I was like, dang, I've been talking about this for like 2 years, and I'm so happy like somebody else finally talking about it. So I'm pretty happy about it. We just, if you're doing link building and you're doing that type of guest posting work, you have to be smart about how you connect with sites and, making sure that you're building a relationship rather than just saying, hey, I want to use you for one post, right? And that's something that all good link building teams are doing or should be doing anyways.
Right.
But I think it's going to be better for the web as a whole and better for content, especially in like the marketing space and, specific space. Like you can't like fart out a 50 or a 500 word article anymore and like get a link and then have it add value anymore, which is fine by me because, there's already enough content out there. It's like you got to write good content if you want to, add value in today's kind of link algorithm world.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I had some issues with it last month with my travel website. It got to a point where it was kind of turning into a guest post farm. Really what it was, I get these articles that were clearly written by, someone who just typed it up, didn't even really do a spell check. And it really came down to like, okay, is this good enough to publish? Does it meet the bare minimum? And it just had, one link in it. So, and I noticed in February, my traffic was just in a free fall. I was...
oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I was on the ballpark about 1,500 visitors a month. And then it just, over the course of 2 weeks, just nosedived down to around 700.
Did you get that message in Search Console?
I didn't get the message, but I'm thinking I feel like the events had to be connected somehow.
Yeah, I would probably test out no following all your outbound links just to give it a test.
Yeah.
Or not all your outbound, but all your guest post, like the byline outbounds. I'd probably test that and see if it makes any difference. I don't know if it will, to be honest, but...
I wasn't sure about the bylines. I actually went in the other day and put those tags in for the links that were in the content.
Which tags? The new tags? Like the rel sponsored or whatever?
I put them in as UGC tags. I had a couple businesses who did a sponsored guest post more as like ad space. And
hold on, let's back up a little bit and talk through those. What are those tags? Because we didn't even talk about that yet.
All right, yeah, I'll start. So, there's 2 tags that Google recommends. That's the UGC tag and the sponsored tag.
And this happened like, 4 or 5 months ago? They published those recommendations?
Yeah, I think they announced it back in September, I want to say. But, and it went into effect the 1st of the month. And, basically it gives you the ability to tag nofollow links as either user-generated content or sponsored content. And that essentially just acts as a hint for Google to see how contextual it is to the actual content.
Yeah, I find this so they said, hey, use these tags, and now they're just hints, right? So what I find really interesting is they've been saying for, even in September, they said, hey, we're good enough to know, even with do follow links, we know if the link's adding value or if it's not. And so we just know if it's good or not. And we'll just discount links that don't add value is what they said, right? And now they're saying, hey, use these hints because, to me, it seems like, well, we don't actually know. We need your help to tell us what is what so we can, have it impact the algorithm that way. But so, I find it odd that, they want people to do these tags when they've said for years, we're smart enough to know the difference, right? So that's kind of interesting to me, but...
I never thought of it like that. That's a really good point.
So I don't know. I mean, I think the no-follow is not going away anytime soon, but it's, going to be something where, even if you have, a canonical tag, for example, right? Canonical tags will tell, it's a hint of Google, hey, don't crawl this page, right? Or this is actually not the right page to crawl. So that's kind of how I see the no-follow attribute going forward. I honestly think the rel sponsored, rel UGC will probably fall off sometime soon. I think maybe they're asking people to do it so the algorithm can kind of understand what's happening and what is what, and then sometime they'll just not ignore them, but they'll just know enough about the piece to make a decision, basically, right? But, what they're doing is they're asking the webmaster to do more when for years they've been saying, you don't need to worry about it. We've got it under control, right? So
maybe, it's just more like transparency, just like tell Google, all right, here's the deal with these links. And then maybe that just refines the algorithm over time.
totally.
But interesting. Yeah. So, I'm wondering how that's going to affect, I know I want to backtrack a little bit, how that's going to affect guest posting. Are people just going to stop reaching out, being like, they're probably just going to no-follow this link and tag it with UGC? Is it even worth building a link anymore?
So, yeah, that's a great question. It depends on the way you're building links, right? If you're just creating a list of a bunch of sites that have Write For Us, hitting them up with a templated email, hey, I want to write a post for you, that's not going to work anymore, right? What you need to do if you're still doing this type of link building is, you need to crawl the sites to make sure if it's a site that has changed all of their outbound links to UGC links, probably don't hit them up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's like one step of like the prospecting or finding an opportunity standpoint that teams will have to like shift their process around. But also the theory of why you're doing this needs to change, right? Because it doesn't make sense for these sites, hey, let us write a piece of a topic you've already written about and let us do it and whatever, right? That's not going to work anymore. Teams are going to have to be a little bit more specific, reaching out to webmasters saying like, hey, what's up, Jim? I wanted to let you know, I noticed you didn't have an article. Let's pick this up in the next segment.
Perfect.
You're listening to This Week in Marketing from AMA San Diego, powered by WS Radio.
A podcast or radio show on WS Radio is a great way to create content marketing. Turn prospects into customers into raving fans. Contact Wade at WSRadio.com or call 866-WS-RADIO.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children.
After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What? Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Can you help a newborn baby in need? Sometimes the blessing of birth becomes complicated and perilous. Miracle Babies is there to help. Miracle Babies helps moms and dads give their all to their struggling little baby, but still need more. When you give to Miracle Babies, you help them give more. More skin-to-skin care, breast milk, and love. Go to miraclebabies.org and give right now. Be their miracle.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy, Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back, San Diego marketers. You're listening to another episode of This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the American Marketing Association San Diego chapter, and of course powered by WS Radio. In the studio, I've got Sam Wheeler. We're talking all about SEO and the future in 2020. More particularly, we're talking about link building and Google's recent update on nofollow tags. So, Sam, just to pick up where we left off here, we were talking a little bit about guest posting and its potential with the new tags.
Yeah, so, I talked before the break about kind of understanding the website you're pitching to before you reach out to them. So that's got to change on a lot of people's process. Like, there's a bunch of teams that are based in, like, the Philippines and stuff like that just, like, send out thousands of emails.
Right.
It's not going to work anymore. Those sites are just going to get lower and lower in value. It doesn't even really work now. So if you're doing that, if you're, like, a brand and you're, like, paying somebody to do that, like, I would stop that because it's just not adding value. But the key here is finding a team that will identify an opportunity, be like, what's up, Jim? Notice you didn't have a post about this. We're experts in it. We'd love to, like, be an ongoing contributor, right? So what I would like to see is, sites having guest contributors ongoing rather than here's one guest post, right? Because if you think about the value of somebody contributing maybe 3 articles a year, or even 2 a year, right?
It's not enough.
Right? Yeah, it's not enough, but like it's hard for sites to have a staff of 15 full-time writers. It's really expensive, right? But if you can get industry experts, right? You look at every major newspaper, they've got columnists that like focus on different things, right? So, if you're really trying to do a strong link building campaign, the idea is to connect with organizations and editorial sites and become like their columnist on a certain topic, right? So, while you might be getting a few links from the same domain over the course of the year, that's fine because those links are going to ultimately add value. And, at the end of the day, you need to create something that adds value to the user of the site, right? And making sure the topic is smart, it's well written, there's a lot of good research into it, essentially taking a journalistic approach to how you do this guest post, right? And the idea this term guest post is going to die out. It needs to be just like, this is our expert piece of content on your site, right? And of course, it's got to be unique and all that stuff, but that's how I would suggest teams shift their strategy to be, you need to position their leadership in a certain topic, right? So like, gone are the days of a site that sells lamps guest posting about like how to buy a home or whatever, right? Like that's not your expertise. It doesn't make sense. The byline's not going to make sense, right? But like a site about lamps writing an article about
interior design and with lighting.
Exactly, right? Even though that looks a little bit like an ad, as long as it's the article is positioned in a way where it's just like an expert piece of content that could stand alone and be a really good source of information, then it's fine, in my opinion. And the link would be fine too, because it's like you're positioning the company as a resource, even if it's in the byline, whatever. I mean, it's not an ad really, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think from a website's point of view. If you get inquiries, people wanting to post guest posts, should you lay out some ground rules? Like maybe, all right, well, I'd like to get you on as a normal contributor. I don't want this to be a one-off thing. If you want to keep your articles on the site, I'm going to need, X number of articles per year, maybe 3, 4 at least.
Yeah, and, you could do it that way.
You have to have a very specific topic, and all your posts have to fall under this topic.
I don't think you necessarily will need to say, hey, you need to have this and here. Well, you obviously want to have guidelines, right? But I would say you probably want to set up like, here's our people or our writers or our team or whatever, and include people on that page, even if they do 2 articles for you, right? And to have it be more of like, look, this is our team, this is where they're from, and like, instead of just having a guest post with the link to that site and then no other information about them, right? So if you can kind of show Google like, hey, look, this is part of our team, I think that's going to add a lot of value. But but also, having those guidelines, like you said, is really important. But, you want to make sure they do a good job, right? So I would focus the guidelines more on the piece itself,
right,
and not just like it needs to be 1,100 words and you need to have like 2 pictures. It needs to be more like this needs to be a journalistic piece. We have integrity. We have the right to like say this sucks and not post it and just show them, you need to create good stuff at the end of the day, right? I hate when people say that at conferences, like, oh, just make good content, right? But
that could mean anything.
I know. I really hate myself that I'm saying that right now. But at the end of the day, there's this threshold of what is good and what isn't, right? And you just, in my opinion, it just needs to add value to the user, right? So it also should be like on a topic that you haven't posted before, right? Because if you're talking about, rankings, you don't want to have like a bunch of pieces on the same topic and like have a cannibalization of keywords and stuff like that too. So I think it's going to force editorial sites to be more stringent about the content they produce, which is ultimately a good thing.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get a little deeper into the content itself. I know we were talking about general terms like create good content. I'm wondering what's kind of your thoughts on guidelines for, let's say, word length for an editorial post. I kind of feel as marketers we like to get caught up in these general stats. Like I'm sure you've seen stats like, the top 15 entries in Google are 2,000 words or beyond. I can't remember who produced that stat, but it was basically the stat that like,
I've seen that chart.
If you want to rank well, you need to produce content that's over 2,500 words.
So the way that I've always talked about it is that you need to create, and this is it's easier said than done, right? But you need to create the best source of information on a topic on the web. That should be your goal anytime you write anything. Now, the length of that, right, if you're talking about specifics, the length of it depends on what the query is that you're trying to solve, right, or that you're trying to answer, right? So you don't need 2,000 words on a query about, like, what time does the sun set tomorrow?
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So, you need to, if you're trying to rank an SEO, you want to look at what the question is, how long you need to answer it, and think about if you were the user and you were searching for information, what you need to know, right? And then you also want to look at the SERP itself. Who's ranking right now? How long is their stuff? What's in it? How do they breaking it down? Do a little bit of competitive research before you start writing a piece. But then, at the end of the day, it needs to answer the question where if a user reads this, can they get all the information they need in order to solve their question? And if the answer is yes, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I get, with writers, like a lot of writers need to know, okay, what's my target word count here? And it's not really about hitting a word count. It's about what are the main questions you're answering here? Can you answer it perfectly in 500 words? Great. Can you answer it in depth in 5,000 words? Great. Whatever. Obviously, like if the query is what's a keyword, you don't need 50,000 words to, go into depth on that. Whereas if like the question is, how do you start a content strategy from scratch? You can't do that in 300 words.
Totally.
Yeah. So it definitely comes down to the questions you're answering and how you can provide all the value.
And I think you also need to think about it in terms of like, you could be if you're writing this, like you should be an expert in the field. Like that's whole Google's like, EAT scores, right? You want to be an expert in the field that you're writing about, obviously, but you also don't need to have all of the information, right? Like, if you think about any type of news article or any type of like, peer-reviewed journals and all this stuff, like they don't just do all this stuff themselves, right? They get info from other places, right? They cite their sources. You're essentially, when you're creating this like type of content, you want to bring in a bunch of resources and have it show a story of like why this is the right answer, right? And it's okay to use outside sources. It's okay to link out. You just need to essentially look at yourself as look at your site as a journalistic approach and being like, here's all the information, here's the best information from the web, and it's put in a way that tells a story that answers the question or the keyword.
Awesome. I love that. I always, when we hire writers, I love to look for writers with a journalistic background. I think that's definitely the way the web's going. So now that we've got, the perfect piece of content that answers the query and all the detail, we might have to pick up on this in the next segment. We've got about 2 minutes here. I want to come back to the issues with outbound links that we saw in that SEG article. So do you think potentially, let's say you're a website that links out to this perfect piece of content that answers the query in the perfect amount of words or whatever, it's just the ideal length, answers the query perfectly. Do you think that can boost their ranking by linking out to it, or improve the chances of getting that article ranked because you're providing the expert resource within it?
Can you repeat that?
Sorry, I'll dumb it down. I tend to drone on with questions. So you, as a article, you accept a guest post, for example, and they link out to a piece of content that fits all the criteria, it answers the query perfectly. Could that help your site rank, or help that piece of content rank?
So if you look at kind of the last couple of years ago, right, you want to show that you're using sources that prove that you're right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so I don't think by putting in outbound links, you're going to rank higher, right? But I do think that without showing the algorithm and showing the user, hey, look, there's other source of information out there that we've kind of brought it all together, I think that hurts you by not doing it. So it's not like you can go into an existing piece that you have and just add an outbound link to it and then rank better. That's not how it's going to work, right? But you need those outbound links to show hey, look, here is citing my source, right? And without that, I think your EAT score goes down, and it kind of takes away from you being the authority on a topic, right? And this goes into we can talk about this from from an e-commerce standpoint too. If you're your blog is writing a piece about the 10 best sunscreens, right? And all 10 of them are your products. That's not the best source of information on the web, right? You need to kind of show it's okay to, I even think personally, it's not a terrible thing to link out to your competition as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's pick this up in the next segment.
Sounds good. You're listening to another episode of This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the AMA San Diego and powered by WS Radio.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children, because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McCullough brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcCullough.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McCulloughe. ChristopherMcCullough.com.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Kenja Dixon was crowned the #1 sales executive through hard work, deep thinking, and the revelation of universal talk laws. He now wants to share these lessons with you. Universal talk laws are what you need to know and use in business and at home to have successful and effective conversations. Kenja Dixon shares his wisdom, action plans, and wealth. Each book comes with a chance to win $10,000. Find Universal Talk Laws at kenjadixon.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813. 6813.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back, San Diego marketers. You're listening to another episode of This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the American Marketing Association San Diego chapter, and of course powered by WS Radio. In the studio today, I've got Sam Wheeler. We're talking all about SEO and more particularly link building in 2020 and beyond. We wrapped up the last segment talking a little bit about link building and e-commerce, and I want to pick that back up in this segment. So I think, as we all know, link building for e-commerce sites is just getting harder and harder every day. Google's cracking down on, inserting any sort of promotional link, especially in informational blog posts or any sort of guides. And what do you see the biggest challenges for e-commerce companies these days in building links?
Great question. I think the biggest challenge is being able to position yourself and the resources on your site and your products as a resource for readers, right? So when any type of link building campaign, it's, the way that our company does this, but, more if you think about the theory of like why Google even uses links in the first place is they want to rank people that are leaders in the space that have really good resources that answer questions, right? So when you're thinking about your product and your blog articles and how you're building links, any interaction that you have on the web or anybody that's mentioning you, it needs to kind of fill that parameter. It needs to position your site or your company as a leader and a thought leader in the space, or it needs to position your article or your products or your service or whatever as a resource for the user, right? And if it doesn't satisfy that, then it doesn't really add value. I mean, Google has said this for years, like a list of like discount links or something like that on an EDU site, like those don't add really that much value anymore, right?
No,
so,
none.
You want to think about ways that you can sort of get around that, and you're connecting and building relationships with sites, almost like it's like part of the sales funnel, right? So I would, talk about link building teams out there that are thinking about, okay, how do we ship this for our e-com clients? You need to essentially change to like, it's a sales model, right? You find a prospect, you want to build a relationship, and then you want to close it to make it's not a sale, but it's like the link placement, right? And at the end of the day, you need to, like I said, look at your site and break it down into like, what are the resources and how can I position them in my outreach as why I'm a resource, not just like, hey, look, we sell pet products, like we're so great, link to us. That doesn't work anymore, right? It's more like, hey, you wrote an article about like the dangers of chew toys or whatever. We've got all this research and we've got like 5 companies here that like pay for research and their products are blah, 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 whatever the value add is. And then that you position that and say, hey, you're missing this in your article. Can you include it? Mm-hmm. Right? Or even like, hey, we'll update it for you. Like, here's like 2 paragraphs of text that like help position it. There's a resource for further reading. Like, you want to help essentially websites build their own EAT scores, right? And anytime you get linked on there, it should be improving the article in some way. And if it doesn't, it's not going to be helpful.
So do you think the days of, I guess there may have never really been a heyday for this, but direct links to product pages, I feel like that's just kind of a thing of the past now. Websites don't want to link directly to your product page. It needs to be something that actually adds value.
So yes and no. I think, that's what I'm going back about. How do you position your product as a resource, right? Because like a dog chew toy product page could be a resource, right? It's like, hey, you need to have your dog's chewing up your couch or whatever. Here's a bunch of like really cool products and here's why they're valuable, right? And having a position as a resource, something that's like the best in the space, right? And I think that adds a ton of value. And it's up to the user or the website to decide what they feature, right?
Right. Well, I feel like, it could be the most valuable resource in the world, that product page, but I just feel like, if you approach a website with like, hey, this could add a lot of value, and the second they see that it's a product page, I just feel like it's getting to be harder and harder of a sell.
Yeah, you just need to show that's part of the outreach, right? In that relationship that you're building, you need to explain very clearly and very quickly, like why it's a resource, not why people should buy it, but like what do they need to know? What are you missing out on in your page, right? So if you go, let's say there's that article about, what to do when your dog chews your couch up, reaching back out to that site saying, "What's up, Jenny? Love the piece." But we noticed that like you're missing this bit about like the value of chew toys, right? Like here's 2 paragraphs of like why chew toys are helpful, what you should look out for, what is not helpful with chew toys. And, I think it might be valuable to like position a few resources, right? We've got one, here's another one, maybe something on Amazon or something like that. But to show position as like, here are some solutions to your issue if you need chew toys, right? And that's, if you position it that way in your outreach and you quickly explain what the value add of the product is and why it's a resource for this specific situation, not all situations, but just that specific article, I think it will work. It's not going to work a lot, but it's, when it does, it's going to be pretty valuable.
Interesting. So I'm thinking, are there other ways, I'm wondering how often that really works. Like, is it really worth the time, to send all these emails? Because I don't do anything on the outreach side, but on my own website, I get inquiries to include product pages in my articles. And honestly, I skim through the email, I see a product page, instantly put the email in the trash. Maybe that's just me being a skimmer, but I'm just wondering if it's really worth the effort or if there's another way to go about adding value.
You're
to your
talking about
links.
for the brand side or for the editorial content owner?
For the brand side.
Yeah, it depends how you're getting links, right? If you're a big company and you're getting hundreds and hundreds of links a month, right, because of other efforts, maybe it's not worth it, right? To be getting, doing this manual outreach. But if you're a small company that doesn't get a ton of press and you don't have a huge budget, it's valuable because at the end of the day, those links, if you get, it used to be like a quantity over quality type of thing, but like one really strong resource focused link where your product is being positioned as a resource on a really strong website that has a bunch of traffic, that at the end of the day is going to be way more valuable than, a bunch of links on crappy sites, right? So, the answer is it's hard to quantify, but without it, you're not going to, there's only so much you can do, right? So it's more of like, I would drip them in, right? But it's, you don't want to put 20,000 of your $50,000 a month budget to linking, right? You want to be able to do other types of initiatives as well, but linking shouldn't be something that should really ever be ignored, in my opinion.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm just talking about like, linking directly to product and, category pages on e-commerce sites. But anyway, speaking of which, that segues into the next bit. We, on my company's in-house marketing podcast, we interviewed Brian Dean a couple weeks ago, and we asked him a similar question. And he recommended for e-commerce brands to try and boost their link juice for product pages. A good approach is to create an informational piece of content on their site, maybe like an industry report type of things. Like, for example, the 10 best video cards of 2019. And, within that, you can interlink, your product pages or maybe your category pages. And then if you outreach other websites, they're a lot more likely to link to that informational guide. And, you'll have a lot better success rate getting links to that as opposed to direct product links. And, if you can get links for that, it's not going to give a ton of juice to the product pages, not nearly as much as it would with a direct link. But, it's something. And the chances of getting that link on the site are a lot greater.
Yeah, totally. That also, helps build domain authority as a whole. So when I'm talking about kind of that specific product link outreach tactic that we talked about earlier, of just like reaching out, being like, hey, this is why this is valuable, we'll add a little bit to your piece or whatever. That is a tactic that shouldn't be your main focus, but should be one that you're getting, right? If your site builds this kind of like, white paper or something that you're just talking about, and that's the only way you're getting links, it's going to look really unnatural. You get that link authority that's flowing down into those product pages, which is like great. But, at the end of the day, you want to be building a natural profile of like links from all parts of your site, right? So, I think that white label tactic is good from like getting more of a volume of links. But at the end of the day, that those, like you said, those product links are going to be really valuable. I wouldn't stop doing that. It would just be like a sliver of time of your like allocation for the different tactics you're doing should be going to that. And in addition to stuff like that, I mean, that's kind of like skyscraper content, right? Where you're just like building a bunch, you're bringing in a bunch of different resources, a bunch of different people and saying, look, this is like the best source on the web or whatever. And then also like understanding the need for that stuff, right? So, there's like a good example would be like if you notice there's like hundreds and hundreds of links going to like a specific Wikipedia page about a topic, just rewrite that Wikipedia page and make it better and put it on your site and be like, hey, all those people that are linking to Wikipedia, be like, hey, look, we have a way better resource than this Wikipedia article that you're linking to, right? And that's like a standard tactic that has been, people have been doing it for years, right? But you're building links to like a piece of link bait, right? That's not necessarily supposed to rank for something, if that makes sense.
Right. How receptive do you think people would be to that, though? Like linking to, a website they've never heard of who claims they have better content than Wikipedia over linking to Wikipedia?
It works. I mean, people know Wikipedia is like a community thing, right? I mean, you just have to convince them. It's all really in the pitch, the outreach pitch, right? Mm-hmm. You need to convince them, like, look at this. It's way better graphics, easier to read, easier to digest, more information. If you can communicate that in the email, right, and the piece is actually good, if you have half a brain, you're going to open that up and go, whoa, that's way better than Wikipedia. Like, I'm going to update the link. And what you can do and what, we've done before that's worked is, like, you don't necessarily need to, like, steal links from Wikipedia. You just be like, hey, can you also add this as another resource, right? And that works really well, too.
We're going to have to pick this up in the next segment. We've got about 5 seconds left, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that, and we'll pick this up in segment 4. You're listening to This Week in Marketing, powered by AMA San Diego, and put on by WS Radio.
Can you help a newborn baby in need? Sometimes the blessing of birth becomes complicated and perilous. Miracle Babies is there to help. Miracle Babies helps moms and dads give their all to their struggling little baby, but still need more. When you give to Miracle Babies, you help them give more. More skin-to-skin care, breast milk, and love. Go to miraclebabies.org and give right now. Be their miracle.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goley, one thing that you've helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get to the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians, because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life. Live it well.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. So we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back, San Diego marketers. You're listening to This Week in Marketing, provided by the AMA San Diego and, of course, powered by WS Radio. In the studio today, I've got Sam Wheeler. We're talking all about SEO and link building for 2020. We wrapped up our last segment talking a little bit about e-commerce and some good link building strategies. And just to pick up where we left off, I know, Sam, you were talking about doing link building in around Wikipedia and creating better content that's what's on Wikipedia and convincing the linking domains to link to you instead. So I'm curious. I feel like, we're hearing all this buzz around EAT, and when it comes to EAT, Wikipedia is one of those sites that's just at the top of the line. It's, people see those links in the article and automatically think it's credible. So I'm wondering, let's say you've got a DA of, you're in the 30s, maybe 40s. How do you go about convincing website owners who are linking to Wikipedia to link to you instead?
So, great question. I would not even bring up DAs at all in the initial pitch, obviously. But if somebody comes back to you and says, hey, your DA is so low, I don't want to link to you, you got to hit them back with this idea that DA is just a relative metric, right? It's relative to the industry you're in. It's a made-up number that Moz does based on your internal or your external links pointing to your site. It really just depends on the situation of the industry and the other pages that are ranking, right? So, at the end of the day, Google wants to rank the best source of information on a topic that answers a query. That's what Google wants to do, regardless of the size of the site or whatever their DA is, right? Which is page authority and domain authority, right? And so, that's why you have all these smaller sites that are ranking for really specific topics, and they're beating, people like Walmart and Amazon in some cases because Google has basically said this is the best source of information, right? I'm going to rank it. So, DA should be looked at as a relative metric, not as we don't link to stuff above or below a certain DA. Because, at the end of the day, if the content's great and you produce a really good piece of content, you just need to show people that this is the best and explain why very succinctly in an email, and it should work. It's not always going to work, right? But, the better you can do that, the more successful your outreach campaign will be.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I just feel like in a lot, especially coming from the travel blogging industry, DA is just really the lifeblood of any sort of link building or guest posting. I think every single inquiry I've got, it's like, hey, here's my site, DA, whatever. Can you link back to me? Do you want to do some sort of, three-way link exchange, whatever the tactics are?
Yeah, I mean, the DA, you can artificially inflate DA. A lot of guest posting sites, and that's kind of what Google's going after with this outbound stuff, is that's how they make money, right? They inflate their DA by getting links. They have no traffic. Mm-hmm. It's like DA 30, but no organic traffic at all. And then they sell outbound links, right? And that doesn't work, and that's what Google, I think, is trying to crack down on with this outgoing link warnings, right? But, if you just look at DA, you're missing because a DA 40 with no traffic is way less valuable than a DA 10 with actual traffic, right? Mm-hmm. And also the other thing that, a lot of sites miss out on is the relevancy signal, right? So a DA 40 site that's all about flowers, versus if, let's say you sell flowers, right? A DA 40 site about tools or a DA 10 site about flowers, you probably want to link from that smaller site that's about flowers because you also sell flowers, right? And that's more relevant than some site about tools or whatever, right? So there's this relevancy signal where a site with a lower DA that's specifically about your industry is really, really impactful. So, another great example is if you sell accounting software, right? you want links from all these really tiny accounting websites of, freelance accountants, right? You want those links. Those are really, really powerful. It's really relevant. They have small rankings like in their locality, right? But it's all specifically about accounting stuff. Right. So it doesn't matter the DA in that situation. And that's one thing we tell our clients a lot because, it's this relevancy signal. You need to position yourself. It goes back to what I said earlier. You need to position yourself as a leader in your industry, right? And so if you've got a bunch of these small websites that are real websites that are freelance accountants and they're referencing your product and you're an accounting software, that is like the most valuable thing in terms of link than, some marketing website that's DA70 linking to you, right? About your software or whatever.
Right.
So, when you're looking at that linking campaign, you need to take into consideration the domain authority of the site that you're getting links from, but also like the relevancy signals of that site. Because if they're not positioning you as a leader or it's not in your industry, it's ultimately not going to add value.
Right. Yeah. And for that, I like to use the analogy, like say you're a restaurant, you're a brand new restaurant that opened up. If another chef says your food is really good, that's going to help a ton. Whereas like if an auto mechanic says it's really good, yeah, that's cool, but that's not, what does an auto mechanic know about, culinary? Whereas, if someone like Gordon Ramsay says your food's awesome, that's going to be huge.
Totally. And the websites, when we're talking about these low DA sites, they just need to be real, right? So if you see like so when you're looking at DA, you should also be looking at actual traffic, not actual organic traffic that the site's getting. If you see like wild swings in their traffic, like an indication of a penalty, you don't want to link to them really no matter how high their DA is, right? But, going back to that point about like the Gordon Ramsay and the culinary stuff, let's say you open a restaurant, there's another layer of complexity in terms of local search, right? Where like if you're a restaurant and you're trying to rank for the term like dinner in the town that you're in, getting a link from that mechanic down the street is going to add value because it's a local link in your vicinity. It's a local business around your physical location. That might not be as powerful as a link from Gordon Ramsay's website, obviously, but it's something that shows Google, hey, look, I'm a player in this specific locality, right? So, from a link building standpoint for local, what we suggest always is every business that's within like a 20-mile radius of your physical location, you should reach out to them and try to get a link on their site.
Interesting. I never thought of it like that. I like that a lot. Cool. So yeah, I want to come back what we talked about a little bit ago about reciprocal linking. Just to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, we could have a whole.
True. Yeah, we got about 2 minutes left in this one.
So I got a very strong take on reciprocal linking.
Well, let's get a taste in 2 minutes here.
All right. So reciprocal linking, link to my page, my links page, and I'll link to your links page. That's dead.
Yeah,
it hasn't worked for years, right? But like if you think about how many times the New York Times links to somebody and how many times that person links to the New York Times, that's a lot, right? So when we're talking about reciprocal linking, that type of you link to me on my links page, I'll link to you you link on my links page, that's dead. But like you can still link to another website if they link to you, if it adds value. So that's the key, right? So if maybe you don't want the same page going back and forth, but like if you link to them on one page of your site, they link to you on another page and about a different topic or whatever, as long as the link is being positioned as a resource or positioning your company as a leader in the space, in my opinion, it's completely fine. Again, going back to the theory of if the link adds value, it's okay. Now, I wouldn't have conversations about this is our reciprocal link, right? It'd be more in the email chain or how you position it is really important. Like, okay, this makes sense here because I'll position you as a leader or it's a really good resource. Hey, we also have this resource. Can you link to us on this page over here? Whatever, right? So I think you can do it if it makes sense and adds value. But if you're doing it to game the algorithm, ultimately will backfire or Google will just ignore it, to be honest.
Interesting. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of in the travel blogging industry, to come back to that for like the millionth time in this episode. A lot of what we see is three-way link exchanges. Do you think there's still value in that other than, I know a lot of it's what you just talked about, like how it adds value.
Well, with the three-way link exchange, you're kind of creating like a mini PBN almost, right? if you just keep doing that over and over again, it's essentially just that's what a PBN is, right? It's just a bunch of sites linking to each other in the circle. Again, if it adds value, you're good. We need to pick this up again.
Sounds good. Yeah, we could probably do a whole episode on this. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. This was another great episode of This Week in Marketing, brought by the AMA San Diego and, of course, powered by WS Radio. And we'll see you next time.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Looking to be a successful entrepreneur? The virtual assistant industry continues to be a top choice for those looking to start their own business. The problem can be how to become a virtual assistant. Many turn to the Bible of the VA industry, the book Virtual Assistant, the series, and it's the perfect guide for office managers, executive assistants, and other administrative professionals looking to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. Go to vatheseries.com to get your copy today.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released, and to encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. Scale will help you work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, visit us online at scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.